Welcome to the Journey Podcast. Let's grow together and let's reshape the health and fitness industry for the better. Welcome to the Journey Podcast, and I'm so excited to finally launch this series. I'm so excited to finally bring this to you, and it's something that I've actually really struggled with for a long time because I was really looking for inspiration for what would actually provide you some value. And so I thought and I thought and I thought, and it came to me that I didn't just want to give you another health and fitness podcast because everyone has one. And there are so many people who are so much more well versed in their specific subject. And if I was to just copy and paste exactly what they were saying and provide it to you in a podcast, that wouldn't be authentic. And I personally wouldn't enjoy it. And I don't think you would enjoy it because if you can't sense that authenticity from the person, there's no way that you're going to fully engage with them. And so what I wanted to do was provide and create something that was a bit more unique and something that I hadn't quite come across myself. And it's as much as a podcast as it is almost like an ongoing documentation. And I wanted to share with you the story of someone who has failed more times than they have maybe perhaps succeeded. And that includes feeling on their health and fitness journey. I've been to both sides of the weight spectrum. I've experienced every negative thing you could experience when it comes to weight loss and being chronically underweight and really unhealthy from an underweight perspective. I've dealt with every eating issue under the sun. I've dealt with injuries. I've dealt with, problems related to my mental health and things like that as well. And so I wanted to call it the journey because a journey is very useful in terms of reflecting on what's happened that allows you to actually make further progress in the future. But I also wanted to document the day to day just now. And I wanted you to join me on that journey because I want you to come on this journey yourself. And really what this is it's a documentation of myself and hopefully whoever joins me in this process to move towards the best version of themselves. Now, my medium for that is obviously helping people through health and fitness to become the best versions of themselves that way, to become the healthiest, happiest version of themselves through that specific medium. But I also want to sort of document the journey of me becoming a better coach, a better business owner, which you can see if you're watching this on video. Very humble background behind me. Um, and hopefully one day that will be a much more impressive office space, potentially on our own brick and mortar studio or something like that. Very exciting. But it's not just the business that matters to me. It's not just the coaching that matters to me because I become so much more than that now. Do you know? And I used to keep myself very caged in within that identity because it's where I felt safe and secure. And I still feel very safe and secure in that. Work is always something I can trust because work is something I can control. And so whenever I feel like I am struggling, whether that be physically or mentally, I always default back to work because I trust work, because I know that work is between me and me. And if I'm invested in what I'm doing and if I'm putting in the effort, then I will get the reward from that. But now I also have to be conscious of becoming a better husband, a better father, a better son, a better brother, a better friend, which are a lot of things that I've neglected. Maybe not so much the husband and the father, but certainly everything else has fallen to the wayside, so to speak. And so this journey for me is about becoming a better version of myself to help inspire others, but also I want you to join me on that journey because that's why I got into this was there's a young version of Jamie who I could have helped. And that version of Jamie who struggled with his health, his mental health, his physical fitness, his diet, his diet majorly, and a whole host of other things. All he needed was someone to guide him through those challenges and to provide him with a pathway forward. And so this podcast is going to be a documentation of this journey that I'll be embarking on. I would love you to join me and hopefully we can start to form a bit of a community of like-minded people who want to move towards that best version of themselves so that they can have the best life that they can ever imagine, right? Because that's ultimately what we should all aspire towards is to have our best possible lives because the better you are, the better an influence you'll have in your family, the better an influence you'll have on your friends, the better an influence you will have in your community. And ultimately, I want to have a transformative influence, not just in my community, but in the health and fitness community specifically, because I can't help but feel it's moved so far beyond helping people, and it's just moved completely into making profits these days. And you only have to look at the mass amount of misinformation and truth be told, I used to think it was coming from a place of ignorance. Now I feel like it's coming from a place of manipulation, and that I detest. So I do, because those are people who should know better, but who don't do better. And that is a terrifying, terrifying person in my mind, because that is someone who would do anything to make money. And I have a real distaste for that. And so I want to help shape that for the better. And so this podcast, it's going to be very organic, conversational. It's going to be quite laid back because I'm quite a laid back person. At least whenever I'm speaking to people, when I'm working, I'm working. I can be pretty full tilt when it comes to work. But whenever I'm having a conversation with someone, like a genuine conversation, which I'd love for this to feel like, if you are listening, do you know, I am quite laid back, and I really want to help people get back to common sense. Do you know, to focus on the things that matter, to not get lost in this fear-led marketing that has infected my industry. And hopefully through the mistakes I've made, from the education I've garnered, from the experience that I've accrued over time of having worked with, thousands of people at this point, I'll be able to have a positive influence on your life. And so if that sounds like something that is up your street, then please join me in this community, join me on the journey, and share elements of your own journey. And hopefully you'll feel more comfortable doing that over time. But I would love for us to all move towards a better version of ourselves. Now, the structure of the podcast moving forward, I will be talking about maybe a lesson that I've learned from my past, or maybe something I picked up on more recently working with a client, or that I've sort of interacted with. I'll share that. I'll sort of flesh that out and give you some practical takeaways from that. But I'd also like to share with you important elements that have helped me become a more well-rounded version of myself as well, and have helped someone who, it wasn't that long ago, I was diagnosed as being this sort of high functioning depressed person, who was surviving basically off the back of having lost their dad, and um, I basically shrunk away into work and had put a mask on themselves for the best part of 10 years and had just sort of pretended like everything was okay. Someone who has come from that place, who's had every issue that they could possibly have when it comes to, their body weight, their body image, eating issues, health issues, injury issues, all those things, from someone who's been as low as they could possibly be to now someone who is in a position where he never thought that he could get to, where he feels happy, where he feels that he is at peace, he is content. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to stop moving forward, but it means I've reached a place where I am healthy and I am happy, and I just want to be healthier and happier, and I want to have more of an influence on other people to show them that they don't have to stay stuck. There is a pathway forward. There is a better life waiting for them. The distance between where they're at now and that better life, though, it is hard work. It is uncomfortable. There will be challenges, but a very strong sentiment that was shared with me before was the people who choose the hard options tend to have an easy life. The people who choose the easy options tend to have a hard life. And so part of the podcast is going to be dedicated to helping expand your knowledge on all things health and fitness, particularly those things that I would say that I am more of an expert in and can actually help provide some value from my own perspective. But the other half of the podcast is going to help, I hope, shape you more holistically in a better way to become a more well-rounded individual. Whether that be becoming, a better partner or a better parent or a better child or a better brother or sister or a better friend, whatever that could be. if I can help share with you some of the lessons I've learned that have really helped me, maybe there's going to be some things in there that you can pick up and take away, and they will have a transformative effect on you. And so the first one of those that I wanted to share in this relatively short introductory episode was the concept of gratitude. And gratitude, I think, is something that I used to have I always used to stick my nose up at gratitude. I thought that's for people who, lie in the bath and light candles. It's for people who listen to maybe Gwyneth Paltrow podcasts, people who, you know, socks and sandals, that sort of thing. Not quite my deal. But the more I explored gratitude and the more I practiced it and practiced it legitimately, the more I started to really, really experience the benefits of it. Because I think a lot of us can get caught up in the rat race nowadays of needing to have more materialistic things. We're never good enough in this sort of attention economy that we live in, where there's always someone who has more. There's always someone doing better than us. There's always someone who's presenting as being this more perfect avatar. And a lot of it is smoke and mirrors, to be quite honest. But gratitude has been a wonderful weapon for me to combat a lot of those negative thoughts that ultimately don't really do you any good. It doesn't really help you to feel negative about your own situation, to feel negative about you as an individual, to feel negative about what you have and who's around you and these things. It doesn't really help you. And I know there's going to be people who are living in difficult circumstances and who have very, very challenging experiences and things like that. And I totally appreciate that. And this is not to sort of insult those or to say that they are not valid or anything like that. But gratitude is such a powerful weapon that we have in our arsenal to live a better, more peaceful life, at least between our ears. Okay. So the one I think major element of gratitude that most people struggle with is they practice gratitude in a way where they think someone is going to grade them based on what they've said. I'm grateful because the sky hasn't fallen. I'm grateful because I've got a house. I'm grateful because I've got my health. I'm grateful for all these things. And you might be grateful for them, but are you legitimately grateful for them in that moment? And that's what you have to ask yourself. Because for me, the real power of gratitude lies in being grateful in the mundane. I'm grateful because I had 5 minutes of peace and quiet this morning to have my coffee and collect my thoughts. I'm grateful because I had this lovely message come through from a client who said that they could go out for dinner and didn't feel guilt or shame. I'm grateful that I got to spend half an hour this evening with my wife watching our favorite show, and I didn't think about work that whole time. Peace and quiet. I'm grateful that I had a great workout this morning. I'm grateful for these things. And I mean that like it has elevated my day. It has elevated my life. And I took it for granted, but now I'm pausing to acknowledge it and I'm being grateful for it. So if I can offer you one homework for this first introductory episode, it would be to start practicing that gratitude. I find that you can do it really well with voice notes, although you might sound like a lunatic if you start recording voice notes throughout the day and keeping them on your phone, especially if they're directed towards yourself. But the notes application is wonderful. Even if you're just jotting down 2 to 3 things that you're grateful for every few days, perfect. There's the physical sort of like the jotting down element of that, which might have an even greater impact when you consider there is some interesting clinical literature on, if there's the act of physical writing seems to impart almost like if you want to say like a double impact in a way, for the importance of a message, or if you're studying or something like that, the physical act of writing seems to, I don't know, it's almost like you've read over it twice or something like that. It seems to be more deeply ingrained. But ultimately, what matters most is that you just start practicing it. And I practice it a lot of the times. I practice it in silence. I say to myself, God, I'm grateful for that. God, I'm grateful for this. But it's legitimate. It's authentic. It's not, someone hasn't told me to be grateful for that. I am grateful for it. And I'm grateful for silly things. But again, it's the mundane, the silly things that actually make up the joyous moments in your life. So we'll wrap up this first episode. I'd love your feedback. So I would. I'd love to sort of better understand how you feel about the tone of the podcast, how you feel about, what we're going to be covering in the podcast. Again, it's going to be sort of a split between how I feel people could lead healthier, happier lives through my experience, my education, and having worked with so many people to help them achieve that. And also, it's going to be split between how I feel we could maybe all move towards being a better, sort of more well-rounded version of ourselves, And for me, that's through the lens of becoming a better father, better husband, better son, better brother, better friend, and ultimately within all of that, I'm still trying to become a better coach and better business owner. But I would love to hear your feedback. I'd love to get your ideas, and ultimately, I'd love to hear a bit more about your own journey as well. And I know that most of you won't want to talk about that on a public post or anything like that. But if you want to share it with me, private message, that would be fantastic too. And I'd love to hear how you find gratitude, and the things that you're grateful for and how much of a benefit that has in your lives. And you're more than welcome to thank me for that as well. Whenever you notice that your headspace is a much calmer, more peaceful and happier place. But that's the end of the first episode. Episode? Couldn't finish it without that, could I? Almost got through. That's the end of the first episode of the Journey podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully it sounds like this is going to be the the right medium for you to start working towards that healthier, happier life. And please join me in the next episode. And we'll be talking all things metabolic adaptation. So we shall, and I shall be sharing with you another interesting sentiment that has helped improve my life on a daily basis. But I'm really grateful that you've listened to this first episode, and I'm looking forward to seeing you more on this journey and to be part of this community.